Hey guys, how you doing? This is Andrew Sims with the Sims Consulting Group, and today we're going to take a deeper cut on something that we discussed before, and it's really about success, man. At the end of the day, success takes time. It's a process, and there are two components that really kind of undergird the process, if you will, and that's being assertive but being patient at the same time. So the title of this video is "Success Takes Time. Be assertive and patient." Why did I do this, right? Because I'm constantly talking to people, and a lot of it is really kind of motivating them through the discouragement while they're on the road to success. And it's kind of the misinformation that I should be there now, or I should be at this point in my life by now, or I should have this by now, or my business should be at a certain place. And realistically, where there are milestones, there are things that you want to accomplish by a certain time frame, right? Time frames are okay, but those time frames have to be realistic. And that's kind of the crux of why I'm doing this video, because a lot of people's time frame between starting something, right? And I'm talking about something that's going to sustain time, or going to be successful for not just today, or it's not just a fad. It's actually something that's going to really impact your lifestyle and the lifestyles of other people. And anything that's going to stand the test of time is going to take time to build, right? And sometimes we have to take some time before we even start the building process to really move out or deconstruct some of those bad policies, those bad procedures, those bad habits, right? Before we even start to get on that correct road to success. And some people say that's the start of it. But at the end of the day, right, there is going to be time. So the first point I want to make is success is a process. And of course, I have my notes over here. Success is a process, and it's a bunch of small decisions that add up to a desired result. When you wake up every day, there are no meaningless tasks, right? Some of those tasks you may like more, some of those tasks you may like less. But each one of those tasks, each one of those things that you have to commit yourself to are going to be a part of this whole story called success, right? For instance, there are parts of my particular day that I favor more than others, right? There are things that I really don't need motivation to do. But then there are other things throughout my day that really require me to really make myself do those things and do them at a high level. Um, in each one of those decisions, every day I get up, and I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, but every day you wake up and you make the right decisions and you do the right thing and you consistently perform, you're adding to that success ball. It's like a snowball, right? A snowball, if you put it at the top of a mountain, where it's a something that people have used many times, but it's very true. And you put that little snowball at the top of the mountain and you start rolling it. Eventually it may get a little bigger, right? It may pick up a little bit of size, but as it goes further and further down that mountain, eventually it's going to be big enough to where it doesn't necessarily need you to give as much effort to push it further as it grows, right? Eventually momentum is going to take over. But momentum has to start with the decision to first create that little ball. And the same thing is true with your success. Momentum has to start with the first day you make the right decision. Now, that first day, you're not going to see the end result, but know that your result is one day closer. The second point I want to make is, excuse me, success requires assertiveness and patience. And we're going to kind of define both of those things really quickly. But I want you to understand something, that you're going to have to give it all you got every day, but be patient enough for the results to actually develop. So every day you're going to have to play like today's the championship game. But we know that in sports, there's a long season, right? Basketball, 100 and something games. Football, 17 games. Baseball, I don't even know how many games baseball teams play anymore. But at the end of the day, we know the championship is at the end. But every game gets you to and prepared for, and every practice and all those things get you prepared for that one championship game. And you don't get to that championship level without first going through the process of the preseason, the regular season, the OTAs, and all of those things, right? So while you have to play every game like it's your last to really be successful, there's also patience and understanding that the goal is down the road and we're going to keep working and running as hard as we possibly can toward that goal. Now, what do I mean by being assertive? I kind of alluded to it a couple of seconds ago. You have to give your all, and not just give your all, but be expanding what your all means, right? For instance, when you first walk in an office, now you're gonna it's gonna take time for you to learn your job, right? Whether you went to school, whether you did the same kind of work at another company, there's still an onboarding process, right? That doesn't stop when you start signing or you're done signing your document, your 1090 or whatever it is, right? That onboarding process has to continue until you become proficient at your job. And then once you become proficient, you have to but you have to be assertive to become proficient. You have to ask the questions. You have to invest the time. You have to do your due diligence when it comes to your research outside of the office while you're still developing the skills inside of the office. But as you go, your capacity should be expanding, right? That's where we talk about proficiency. What took you 2 hours to do the first time you did it should gradually be declining because you're able to do it faster. Excuse me, it's become more of a routine. You're better at it, right? So your proficiency goes up and the time it takes to perform a certain task should go down. And then over time, because you're requiring less time for the stuff that you started out doing, you should be able to do more. And by doing more, that's how you climb the corporate ladder, because you start to take on roles that are not necessarily in your job title, which puts you in a position for the people that are able to move you into those new roles, upper management, to see how you function under that type of a pressure, and that kind of promotes you and moves you up. So let's move on to the next one. What do I mean when I say be patient? Rest while you work. What does that mean? Understand it's a lifelong process to become successful, right? Meaning, when you get to the level that you think is successful today, trust me, there's going to be something after that. And you have to commit yourself, just like we talk about being a lifelong learner. You have to be a lifelong driven success type of person, right? Because skills become antiquated. The technology becomes antiquated. So you have to constantly remain in a development type of mindset while resting and understanding that this doesn't all have to happen overnight. You got to give it time. Just like if you're cooking a good meal, right? Some of the best meals I've ever had take the longest to cook, right? And it may be not it's not always the case, but when you want to make I don't know, Thanksgiving dinner, right? Thanksgiving dinner is once a year and it's amazing, but it takes pretty much all day to prepare that meal. So the bigger the meal, or the more exquisite the taste is, the more that has to go into that particular meal. Well, the same thing is true with success. The bigger the vision, the longer you're going to have to trust the process, because you're not going to see everything unfold. When you start this, like when you're working out, you can go to gym for a couple of months and you start tweaking you start to get stronger, right? Maybe your stamina's a little better, but you may not be showing the six pack, right? So you start tweaking the workout, tweaking the diets, and making adjustments, and working this way and working that way, and working with the trainer, all of these different things, right? To actually get to your desired result. You knew that when you went into, I'm sorry, again, I'm getting emails, when you knew the first day you went to the gym, you weren't going to come out looking like your favorite bodybuilder. You knew that that was years in the making, right? I know we see a lot of things where you can go from flab to fab, whatever they want to call it, in 30 days, but that's not true. That's not healthy either. And neither is it healthy for your success. There has to be time that you learn to really hone your skills and develop yourself as whatever it is that you're trying to do. Even let's talk about everyday life. To be a good husband, to be a good father, it takes time. The day your child is born, the day your child comes out of your spouse's belly or whatever, or if you're your woman, the day that the baby comes out, right? You don't have all the information at that particular point in time. You're constantly tweaking your approach to your child's personality, to their skill set, whether you need to be stronger on some days and more stern, or you need to take the time and be more patient on other days, right? You're constantly tweaking that concoction, right? For a husband, some days you need to, be strong, or some days you need to, give in to the wife, let her have her way, right? Whether you're gonna take up this battle or you're gonna let her have, whatever it is, right? It takes time to be good at anything. And when you want to be in the top percentile, that takes more time and it takes more effort, right? So keep that in mind when you're talking about being patient. And how does it all come together? Well, patience gives you the ability to sustain the effort or the assertiveness is going to need to get to that result, because you don't get burnt out if you count the cost. The Bible talks about counting the cost, or you hear in regular, everyday society, it pay the cost to be the boss. If you understand the cost, or at least have an overestimation, I like to overestimate when it comes to time and what it's going to take to produce a certain result, you're going to be able to withstand the heartbreak and the issues that come up against you, those things that are trying to shut you down, because you've taken that time, right? You've meshed those things together. There was a saying in my particular church, and I think it's very true. And this is kind of the believer section. So, if you're not a believer, you can maybe get some good nuggets in it, but it might not hit home the same as if you are a believer. And it says, work like it's all you and pray like it's all God. The work like it's all you means, because sometimes in the Christian circle, right? I'm not trying to be negative, I'm just being honest. We can throw everything in God's hands and say, if God don't bring it to me, God doesn't bring me my dream job, I didn't apply, I didn't call anybody, or that God doesn't promote me, I don't go above and beyond, I don't put in my best effort, but God is going to do all these things, right, without my help. That's not true. That's not true. In fact, that's kind of anti-faith, right? Because if you believed you were those things, you would be walking in that today to a certain extent. You may not be all the way there, but you would be walking in what you believe, or walking towards actively what you believe God has called you to be. So at the end of the day, you want to put forth the effort necessary. Don't just say, I'm a Christian, it's going to happen for me. Put forth the effort that you need in order to be successful. But at the same time, pray like you can't do one little incy part of it without God. I mean, if God don't come through, this thing will never happen. I mean, you got it's we live by faith, right? Just like you need oxygen, you need your faith to work. You need God to be in your life and in your business and at your office, right? So you pray with such a fire, because you know how important it is to get God on your side. Well, he's on your side, but to get God involved in your situation. I'm not saying Christ your father, but you can have a real passionate talk with your father, right? And if it's not, over the top, but it's really just allowing God to know how important he is to this process and how much you need him, right? And I got one scripture and I'm out of here. Philippians chapter 4, verses 6-7 out of the English Standard Version. It says, do not be anxious about everything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Don't be anxious. Pray, receive, accept the blessing, and then walk that thing out through hard work, right? And part of that is that once you pray and you know God's involved, there's a certain level of, I got this. You may not have it tangibly, right? You may not have the name outside the door, right, or tangibly, but you know for a fact that you got it by faith. It makes it easier to walk this thing out, man. So once again, the title is Success Takes Time. Be assertive and patient. This is Andrew Sims with the Sims Consulting Group, man. I love you guys. I hope that 2022 is the best year yet, man. Y'all be blessed. Peace.